Hello, everybody. Glad to see everybody in the chat window and hope you're having a fantastic time today. The topic of the presentation this afternoon is using AI to quickly handle sensitive data management. So we're going to be looking specifically at the problem of how we deal with sensitive information and how Hitachi Vantara can help you through that process. My name is John Stegman. I've been working with Hitachi Vantara since January, and prior to that at Waterline Data, which was acquired by Hitachi and became the Lumada Data Catalog. Lumada is really an end-to-end data fabric that covers data all the way from the edge, from sensors, from video, to the on-premise data center, out to the cloud. And we give you tools that help you manage the flow of information across that spectrum of technologies to solve business problems. So let's talk about sensitive data and data privacy and some of the problems that we see in the marketplace today in companies like yours. You know, the first and foremost is we're getting so much more data into our organizations today than we ever have. And some of that data is by its nature sensitive. There's data that's sensitive information because it's about people, our customers, it's about our partners, our vendors, our suppliers, but it's also can be sensitive in relation to our own intellectual property. We've got company-sensitive information that has our trade secrets. We've got company-sensitive information about our financials. All of that information is sensitive and needs to be managed appropriately. And the problem we have is that with all this data all over the place, and it seems to grow and grow and grow, staying on top of that sensitive data can be a real big challenge. We often don't know where all of our sensitive data is stored because it's stored in so many different places and it's coming at us so fast. And furthermore, we don't often know who has access to it. We've all seen in the news accidental exposures of private and sensitive information, and we'll talk about some of those a little bit later on. And what problems do that cause for us? Well, if we expose sensitive information in Europe, for example, about real people, the governments will come knocking on our door asking for a fine. All right, we have GDPR, we have similar things here in the United States with CCPA and so forth. But we also have risks to our reputation. We have risks of exposing secrets to the competition and harming our company. We have risk to damaging our brand. And so that's a problem we all face today. If you work with data, you have this issue that you need to deal with. You know, fines, I don't need to go into the details of the real money that exposing sensitive data could cause to our companies. And what this has forced us to do is to make some real trade-off kinds of decisions. On the one hand, on the left side of the picture here, business is demanding more and more data. We need data to make good decisions. We need data to assess what we should do, what new products we should bring to market, how we should interact with our customers to prevent our customers from leaving. And we want more and more data to do that. On the other hand, we have those regulatory requirements. We have internal and external compliance rules that tend to balance out that demand because we can't just willy-nilly make data available to everybody who wants it. We have to protect the data that's sensitive. And so what this has forced us to do is to make a trade-off between the two of these. If we lean too far to the right and we protect our data too much, it becomes really difficult for the business to gain access to one of our most valuable assets, which is the data we have captured and the data we're bringing into the organization. If we go too far to the other side, we serve their needs, but we run the risk of exposing sensitive information to the public or running afoul of governmental regulations. And this can become a very, very delicate balancing act. I'll talk about some specific customers that had this challenge and how they addressed it a little bit later on in the presentation. But this is an area I don't think we want to be in. Ideally, we'd be able to satisfy both sides of the equation here, the demand for more data and the need to protect that data, and to make both sides of the equation happy. And we know it's not just regulation. There's reputational and personal risk involved with this. Exposing sensitive data inside of a company could damage your career. All right, you could lose your job if you accidentally publish everybody's salary out to the world and send it in an email or expose it. There's legal liability to the company if you expose someone's sensitive information. We've heard of, I think hotel chains and credit reporting agencies that have done this, and they've faced fines and other legal damages. On the other hand, not just those hard costs to us, but now we have brand and business risk as well. So if we damage the brand by exposing all of our customers' information to a hacker or using our customers' information in ways that they don't want us to use, that's not going to be a positive effect on how people view the company. We mentioned here Experian. Obviously, they exposed PII for a huge number of people. That was not good for them. They had fines associated with that, as well as brand reputation. You look at GDPR regulations and what that has done to things like loyalty programs, and taken huge amounts of value out of those because now we're concerned about how that information can be used. You think about going to the grocery store and you have that loyalty card, you scan it so you get the discounts. Well, you're really scanning it so that you can give information to the company about what products you buy and how often you buy them, and they use that to market back and increase your value to them. But that balancing act we talked about has devalued the effect of those kinds of programs to the business. So why is this so hard? We have tools out there that try to help us do this, but there's some challenges with them. Most of the tools out there have very weak capabilities around learning your sensitive data. So they end up being a fairly inaccurate assessment of sensitive data, and you have the risks of both false positives, in which case you protect data that you put too much protection on the data and make it too hard for people to get to. On the other hand, if you're low accuracy, you run the risk of missing some data, and you expose data that you shouldn't. A lot of the tools that are out there work on what I called this morning global sensitive information. In other words, it's information everybody knows that it's sensitive. A customer's name, a customer's address. Right? Those are sensitive for everybody. But companies also have sensitive information that's unique to them. And none of these tools that recognize that global or standard PII, PHI know about the internal company sensitive information, because that's not what they're designed to deal with. Oftentimes, there's a big manual component to finding sensitive data. And with the volumes of data that we have today, companies with petabytes of information, millions, hundreds of millions, or billions of columns of data, you can do the math to figure out how many people you would need to be able to effectively manage that and stay on top of that. And it's more people than any company has devoted to this problem. And then finally, even if you've got 1,000 people, that data is coming in so fast, we just can't keep up with it. The example we give here of a company with 100 million columns of data. It sounds like a lot, but in reality, there are many, many companies out there with this much data. You went out and hired 1,000 analysts and asked them to protect those 100 million columns. You can do the math here. That's 100,000 columns per analyst. And you really think you can keep up with that? It's just not possible. So that's why legacy tools don't work to help us solve this problem. So if the legacy tools don't solve this problem, how does Hitachi Vantara help? Well, let's look at the shortcomings of the existing tool set and replace them with a tool set that can deal with these things in a fully automated way, as opposed to requiring manual effort. Let's use artificial intelligence and machine learning to move away from that global standard PII that everybody can find and give you a comprehensive solution that can understand all of your sensitive data, not just the things that everybody knows about. Let's move away from something that's not very accurate and move towards something that can achieve extremely high degrees of accuracy with high degrees of confidence that you've found the sensitive information. And finally, let's break apart this process where we try to deal with it department by department, and let's move into an environment where we can work together. And what that does is it builds trust in the solution because it's been vetted by multiple people. So let's talk a little bit about how Lumada Data Catalog, a component of the data fabric that we've been talking about, solves that problem. If you've been to the data catalog presentations throughout the day, you will have seen these, but let me bear with me as I walk through this for those of you who may not have seen this. And this is this information is talking about how we use artificial intelligence to automatically discover and classify information, whether it's sensitive or not. Let's be clear, this is a general data cataloging solution. And one of the things it does is it labels all of your data elements with tags or business terms, which could be sensitive and they could be not sensitive. So how does it work? It's all based around this proprietary and patented approach that we call a fingerprint. Now, what's a fingerprint? A fingerprint is simply a collection of features of a column of data. I'm going to use the term column. You might want to use the term attribute or field, whatever you like to call that. I'm going to call it a column for now. So as we automatically scan across your data estate, whether it's in a data lake, whether it's in relational databases, whether it's in the cloud, it doesn't matter. We scan that data and we observe not just the column names and the data types, but we actually look at the data itself. And as we look at that data, we build up this fingerprint by looking at somewhere between 100 and 200 features of that column of data. Then we use machine learning clustering techniques to cluster similar columns of data together. Right, pretty straightforward on the surface. That fingerprinting technology is pretty complex and very unique. But what that does is once we have once we have grouped all these similar columns together based upon their similarity of fingerprint, and it's funny, I need to stop waving my watch around because Siri just woke up and tried to translate what I'm saying. That was interesting. Let's take off my watch and make that easier. So we've grouped all these columns together, and as soon as somebody from your company who knows the data labels one of those columns of data, we now know what all those similar columns should be labeled or tagged. And as people see our suggested tags, they agree with them and they disagree with them. And as they agree and disagree, that machine learning algorithm gets smarter and smarter. Right, on its surface, very simple to understand approach where we learn your business language and we apply it against your data. And as the crowd, as the group of people in the organization look at that information, they look at that metadata, they vet that, they agree with it, they expand upon it, they give their feedback, they ask questions, they provide ratings and reviews. That catalog of data becomes a very rich source of information and a very rich platform for collaborating on the data that we have within our organization. So if you think about it, you heard me talk about this before, it's like an Amazon shopping catalog or a Walmart or an Asda or any of the the catalogs that you might go to online to buy products. You go there, you can search. It's easy to find things using your terminology. You don't need to memorize the technical product name or the part number to find something. You go there and you search for it using the language that's familiar to you. You can see what people thought about it. You can see their ratings. You can ask questions. And you can compare to other products, really similar to the way the Lumada data catalog works. So again, why do we think that our solution is the best solution out there? We've talked about these in the past. Earlier today, I've alluded to some of them. Let me just go over them. First of all, it's an automated solution. It doesn't require on somebody manually registering data sets and manually identifying the business content of columns of data. It's a fully automated solution that can scale up to petabyte scale across hundreds of millions or billions of columns of data. It's comprehensive. It doesn't just cover that global PII that everybody can do, but it covers all of your business attributes, both sensitive and non-sensitive, and varying degrees of sensitivity, as we'll take a look at in the demo. Highly accurate, gets more accurate over time as you train that machine learning algorithm by agreeing and disagreeing with the suggestions. And finally, you get to a point where you can trust that information because it's been vetted, it uses the power of the people that you have to expand the knowledge of that machine learning algorithm and share that information that lives inside of people's heads. And it gets that information. I used to always use the analogy when I'm trying to find information about a data set, I basically just need to walk around figuring out whose head to crack open to get the information that I'm looking for, because somebody knows it. I just don't know who. So searching for data is really going around with a hammer, just trying to crack people's heads open. This is a way to get that information out into a public forum so people can see it and gain more trust in the data that they have. So let's look at not just the catalog. We've got a bigger platform that you've seen at Hitachi Vantara. So let's look at how you can take multiple components of that data fabric and use them together to automate that process of sensitive data management down to a more granular level. So we've got the data catalog. AI-driven can automatically identify sensitive data. We've got Pentaho data integration capability, very sophisticated orchestration, data management pipeline to prepare data, blended together from multiple sources, both traditional as well as the industrial technology and things from the edge, and to build data that's shaped to meet a specific business need. So how can you use these two together? Well, let's look at three what I would call reference architectures for doing sensitive data management. We'll start at the top one. So the top one is all about completely automating data security. I'm going to give you a customer example in just a minute. The data catalog automatically scans, automatically tags data. You've got a security policy management solution in place, such as an Apache Ranger, that can put policies in place based upon tags. And that Lumada data catalog shares that tagging information with Apache Ranger so that you have a fully automated end-to-end solution where the content is automatically discovered and tagged, and then immediately it's secured because those tags are shared with a security platform that secures based on the content. All right, we identify that email address. Apache Ranger says email addresses can only be seen by these people. Boom, it's automated. The second one, which is actually we'll see a demo of today, is a little bit more sophisticated. Raw data comes in, the catalog scans it and tags it just like before. Now we need to mask that data. We want to take the sensitive data and mask it, remove it. So we use Pentaho to read that new raw data, to connect to the catalog, to understand the metadata about this file that we're processing, read the tags, discover which tags are sensitive, and then automatically write and publish a new set of data with that information already masked, and potentially push some additional metadata back to the catalog about that new data set as to how it got here, who did this, which fields are masked. Really, it's going to be a really cool demo that we're going to see in just a few minutes. Another reference architecture would be a similar approach, but using a more sophisticated third-party service to do that masking or anonymization or tokenization of the data. Now, there's lots of other different ways that you can expand out from here. I think these are three very quick and easy ways to get started with getting a handle on this sensitive data management problem. So let's talk about a couple of customer examples. And this one, a big bank, and here we're talking about another dimension even of sensitive data management. This is a large bank that was spending $100 million a year on essentially data infrastructure and had data siloed and spread all over the place, and typically in documents, right? Unstructured data. And they wanted to look at a customer. I've worked with a lot of big banks, and one of the problems that big banks tend to have is that it's very difficult for them to get a complete picture of a given customer. Because a given customer, maybe I have, I have an investment account with the investment side of the bank. I have savings and checkings with more retail banking. Maybe I own a business and I've got some business accounts as well. But none of those parts of the bank really talk to each other effectively. They've all got siloed data across their own repository. So building a customer 360 view in that kind of environment, this particular bank told us that was taking weeks to do that. So Hitachi Vantara implemented a solution based on the Hitachi content platform to consolidate those different repositories together, make them searchable, standardize that information in such a way that we can understand what's there, understand the sensitivity of it. So we deal with that sensitive data problem, but we also have that information consolidated so that we can now start doing the business kinds of things that we want to do. And so you see that translates into real dollars saved, $64 million a year. Another example from the cataloging side, a large brand name that you would all recognize here in the United States, technology firm was building a big data lake. And they were bringing in data fast. Everything seems to be going fine. All of a sudden, the compliance side of the house, the chief security officer says, whoa, wait a minute here. Are we really taking care of the sensitive data in here? I'm not so sure we are, because I have no idea what's in that data lake. And I have no idea if we're protecting this data appropriately. So let's stop for a minute and take stock of where we are. We need something like an Apache Ranger. Great, let's put Ranger in place so we can define security policies based on tags. Super. Okay, let's start up again. We've got some new data to bring in. Well, somebody's got to look at that data and tag that data, assess that data, figure out what it is. And they got to a point where it was literally taking them a couple of months to onboard data into their data lake because of that manual process. So that data is not going to be available until somebody's looked at it and tagged it so that the security platform is going to protect it. What they did, they brought in the Lumada data catalog, automate that process of inspecting the data and tagging it up front so that from the time that data lands in our infrastructure until the time we can publish it is now a matter of hours as opposed to months. So think about the effect of that. That's great from an IT perspective. That's a great story. Let's look at that story from the marketing department's perspective, or the customer care organization, or the product development organization. And what can I do now that I have this data essentially 2 months earlier? I can get ahead of my competition by 2 months. I can respond to those customers who are having problems because I know about them 2 months earlier. Massive benefit to both the IT organizations and the business organizations. So great, you've seen a bunch of slides that talk about this. Let's see this happening in action. So what I'm going to show you today is a roadmap for the demo. And this is a pretty simple demo, but what it does is very, very profound. So let me just walk through it one time. We've got an organization. Data comes in from potentially outside the organization and lands in a landing zone in our data lake. Right? What's a landing zone? It's a zone that's really sectioned off. People aren't using data there because it hasn't been vetted or published yet. So the data catalog automatically sees that new data, automatically profiles it, automatically uses what it's learned through machine learning and tags that data with business tags. And those business tags are classified by sensitivity. It's one of the attributes of the tag. So we've got, might have something that's not sensitive at all. You might have something that's low degree of sensitivity, medium, or high. So now we've got some metadata about that new data that's landed here. Now Pentaho, the data integration platform, will see that new file, connect to the data catalog to read the metadata and those tags that the catalog knows about that file. Use the information, particularly this sensitivity, that's what we built this demo around, use the sensitivity of the tags to automatically determine how it should handle each individual field of data. And in our example, the rule we used, if it's tagged with a tag that's highly sensitive, we're going to completely mask that field. If it's tagged with something that's medium degree of sensitivity, we'll just X out the first 3 characters. And anything else will pass through. So Pentaho automatically masks the data based upon the tags that were discovered automatically by the catalog. And finally, we take that new file with the masked data, we publish it, and we go back to the catalog and tell the catalog, there's a new file out here. Would you scan this file, profile it, catalog it? I'll tell you some metadata about what I just did in the flow. So you can record lineage, so you can record some of the operational metadata. And then we'll see that we have, now we've got a published file, it's masked, it's vetted, it's ready for people to use, and those people can go to the catalog to understand what we found and where it came from. That's what we're going to see in a demo, and we're going to move fairly quickly so that we have time for questions. So let's start here. We will log in. I need to turn on Do Not Disturb on Teams. There we are. I think you can see my screen. And here we go. Let's log into the catalog and let's have a look in the landing zone. Okay, so we'll go over here. We've got a folder here called the landing zone. And the file that we're going to be talking about today is this file called orders raw CSV. Now this file is landed. The catalog has scheduled jobs to automatically detect new files and profile them and tag them. And so I'm not going to show you that process, but I'm going to show you the result. So this is what the metadata looks like for this CSV file. If you'd like to see the CSV file itself, okay, let's have a peek over there. You know, whoop-de-doo, it's a CSV file, right? Imagine if we had to do this manually. Somebody has to look at this file. Those column names, gosh, they're pretty atrocious. I'm not really sure what these things are. And so let's use the catalog. We look at these fields. We can see the names, data types, all this good stuff. But the really important thing we're going to look at here is the tags. So we can see all of these columns have been tagged. I'm moving my mouse over here to quit Teams so the messages stop popping up on my window. There we go. And we can see from the visual nature of the tags, we see a confidence level on there and we see a dashed line. That tells me no person had to go look at this file. This was automatically done. This file essentially landed and we've now got it cataloged and tagged without ever touching it. Nobody's ever seen this file. So now what happens? Let's move over to PDI and let's blow up the screen a little bit here so we can actually see what's going on. This is really just a very simple, straightforward PDI flow. And what it does, first of all, it logs into the catalog, right? Looks up that information for that metadata for that file we're going to process, uses our metadata injection to inject that metadata into the process so that we can then determine what to do. We mask the data, we push that data back out to the data lake in the publish zone now. We then call the catalog to profile the data. We then find the key of that published data so we can do things like put tags on there to indicate that it's been masked, to put some operational properties on, and also to record the lineage. Now, I'm not going to go into each of the steps here, but I am actually going to run this. So let's kick this off. I'm actually running PDI from my laptop here, and the PDI server is off in Amazon, so it's just a little bit slow to connect and kick things off. And for my example here, I'm just going to tell Pentaho what file I'd like to process, and I need to stop talking so that I get it correct. Okay. So pretty simple here. We're just kicking off a PDI flow that's going to do everything that I described. And I'll be honest, it's not going to be super exciting. We're going to watch the log file scroll by, and we can see the various steps happening here. It's going to take a couple of minutes to go through this flow and publish the file. Now what I'll do, I'll show you what the result looks like, and then we'll actually come back and see this particular file that we published. And so you could see it's really not, I mean, it really is happening in real time here as we go. So let's go question here, open policy agent. So, interesting question in the chat about could we use something else other than Apache Ranger? And the answer is absolutely. It really depends upon that other component and whether they have an extensible or open API for us to be able to push metadata into the platform. Now, Apache Ranger was one, has a nice API for pushing tags in through Atlas, and the customer already had Atlas, they already had Ranger, so we have a plugin, or I think we call it more an adapter than a plugin, where we can do what I just described to push this information over automatically. So you have another one. Great, we can do the same kinds of things because we have a very rich set of APIs, much like Pentaho does. We're very API focused. Another question: the LDC job is the base of the Lumada data catalog. So I'm not sure I completely understand your question, but these steps in here, this transformation. We have some transformation steps here that refer to LDC. All those are doing is essentially calling the Lumada data catalog APIs. So the engineering team for the data catalog and for Pentaho are certainly working together to make this process even easier than it is right now. We're fairly early on after having been acquired. So you can expect to see, as we start to release new releases of software, this integration will be more baked in. This was something we just did in the field to show how easy and how powerful it is to get these two products working together. So those two questions are probably pretty close to enough time to having this finished. So let's open up the catalog again. And let's browse over to the published zone. Now, the published zone, I need to look at the dates here. And I believe that it's going to be this file here. Let's check the date, 5/11. No, that's not the right one. You can see we've run this a number of times and published this data a number of times. Is it going to be? That's interesting. I'm not really sure which file this is going to be. This is the one right here. I'm just looking at the modification time of this file. So here's the file that's been published. If we look at the metadata, you can see the Pentaho process is still running. We're not quite done running yet. So the metadata isn't yet complete, but we do have some technical metadata. And we give this literally just a few more seconds, and the Pentaho job will complete. Right, and I'm seeing we're on the next to last step here. We're right here and seeing the log entries. It says we're on the custom property step, which I know is down there. We're adding lineage, and we will be done here in just a moment. So let's go look at this. I'll refresh the screen to refresh the work that has just been done by the Pentaho job. And we see things have changed, right? So this is happening here in real time. So what happened? A couple minutes after this file has landed, it's been profiled, it's been tagged, and now it's been processed by Pentaho and published out to the world. We could see that those tags, we've essentially just taken the same tags and brought them over, except when we have sensitive information. We look down here at customer email and customer phone. Those have been automatically masked by Pentaho, and we put a special tag on there to indicate that it's been masked. If we look at the sample data, and maybe expand this here where it's a little bit easier to see, you could see customer email was defined as a medium sensitivity tag, and therefore we've masked by removing the first 3 characters. If we go to the next page of fields here, we see we have some highly sensitive data, order password, payment PIN, payment card number, and those have been completely masked by Pentaho. So what has happened here? Pentaho has used that automated cataloging and automated tagging to drive function and appropriately process, protect the sensitive information, and now we can confidently publish this out. And now somebody may come along, as a business user I come along, I find this, great, this looks super, where did this come from? Well, that lineage is recorded here in the catalog. It came from this order raw file. We know that. Here's the file in the publish zone. I can look at and get some metadata about that lineage. Oh, Pentaho did this. Here's when it did that. Great, it was processed and masked. So that lineage from the Pentaho flow automatically recorded in the catalog. And in addition, we've pushed some operational metadata into the catalog as well. You know, what's the name of the PDI flow? You know, some comments, obviously we just made something up. This is fantastic. So why do I think this is fantastic? This is probably the thing that I am most excited about since I have joined Hitachi Vantara, because what this is showing is an end-to-end automated process to be able to take a new data set, appropriately determine security and masking rules with using artificial intelligence, and we're finding not just PII, that global stuff that everybody can do, we're finding stuff that's specific to this particular company example, and then publish that data with the sensitive information managed appropriately. And if we go back to the PowerPoint to look at what we were seeing, we saw exactly this kind of a flow. So why is this important? You know, again, think about how long it would take you to do this if you had to manually do this for each step, manually assess the file, manually determine what's there, manually determine the security rules or the masking rules before you can publish the file. And that's the benefit that a unified data fabric platform from Hitachi Vantara can bring together. With that, I'm going to stop talking and see what questions you have. Continue to use the chat window. The question, you know, what job I'm showing you, that's, I assume you're talking about the Pentaho job, this one here. This is something that we put together for this demo that implements that process that I showed you in the PowerPoint. So it's taking that file, it's connecting to the catalog, it's masking the file, it's publishing it, and it's calling the catalog to record the lineage and to record the additional metadata that I showed you. Okay, any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes left. I know for many of you it's late in the day. Bill Schmarzo, who's going to be talking in just 5 minutes, is a very entertaining and knowledgeable speaker. I would highly recommend that you stick around and have a listen to what he has to say. And I saw he posted on LinkedIn just an hour ago. He said, "I know it's late in the day. You know, have a beverage, an adult beverage with you, and sit back and relax and enjoy the presentation." Okay, I'll remind you, if you found something interesting, a nugget of information you'd like to share, head on over to Twitter, share the information with the rest of your colleagues, with the rest of the world, and get a chance to win one of those gift cards. So yes, this is a demonstration. Exactly correct when you asked that in the chat. It's the demonstration we put together to show you how you could implement a reference architecture like we showed you. All right, thank you, everybody. I enjoyed having you spend 45 minutes with me, and I wish you all good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you again, everybody. See you soon.